say to yourself, I am more than my physical body. Because I am more than physical matter, I can perceive that which is greater than the physical world. I deeply desire to expand, to experience, to know, to understand, to control, to use such greater energies and energy systems as may be beneficial and constructive to me and to those who follow me. I deeply desire the help and cooperation, the assistance, the understanding of those individuals whose wisdom, development, and experience are equal to or greater than my own. I ask their guidance and protection from any influence or any source that might provide me with less than my stated desires.
I do not know all the answers to the questions about reality. I do not claim to know the ultimate truth about what I am. I seek that which has been made hidden. As a part of a family that explores your consciousness. I am the void one.
Welcome to Lighting the Void.
Broadcasting live from a shack on a hill in the Mossy Creek bottoms of Cane Creek, Arkansas. This is Lighting the Void Live, and we're live on the Fringe FM, KTLK Digital Broadcasting, YouTube, TalkStream Live, TuneIn, Live 365, and wherever. What's up? It's almost Thanksgiving, November the 27th, 2024, as we head deep into the late night once again, depending on where you're at. I guess, 7 o'clock is probably not late night, but in the central area of the United States and the East Coast, we are definitely headed to the late night. 501-777-5631 is the call in. I am sorry I missed your calls last night. And if I miss your call tonight, I will call you back. I have I have some technical issues going on, man. The screen is blacking out, so this might make it a little difficult. Or I tried to fix it, but whatever. It's a live broadcast. We'll do our best. Okay, we always do our best. That's all we can do. So I hope you've starved yourself. For those of you that are eating Thanksgiving, make sure you leave plenty of room for tomorrow, because tomorrow we feast, right? If you guys see anything, hear anything weird or any technical stuff, let me know, because it's probably going to help me figure out what in the hell is going on. Now, you can always call in and interrupt the broadcast at any point in time. I don't care. Usually, if I can see the phone call. Somebody from Los Angeles called me at 5:30 in the morning, which is about 2:30 in the morning their time, I guess, but it is what it is. So we're getting towards the end of this book, but we're in the book called The Finding of the Third Eye by Vera Stanley Alder, which the publication date was in 1970, but I think it was actually written in 66, though. And so we left off last night talking about meditation. Now, I don't know. I don't know how this is going to go because the screen is flickering. I may not even be able to do this tonight. I might just have to do phone calls all night or just talk to y'all about cats or something. I don't know. Let's see. So one of the most interesting things that I heard though last night during the broadcast was that Vera Stanley Alder talked about two things. And so before we talk about those two things or bring those two things back up in order to not, I guess, lose our consciousness when we die. That's the idea. That's one of the bigger ideas, I guess, of all the woo spiritual stuff, right? Is to not lose consciousness when you die, not go back into the state of amnesia and then reincarnate, be born again, do all this stuff all over again. So there's all kinds of different things that are taught to try to prevent this, alchemy being one of them. Alchemy is supposed to prolong your life. It's supposed to help you raise the Kundalini energy. It's supposed to help you develop your soul and your star body. And that's some of the bigger secrets about it. It's not just the, laboratory alchemy, even though that stuff works too. But alchemy works on all levels. I like things to be simplified though. And so one of the practices that Vera Stanley Alder talked about was two things. If we just did this every day, there's a higher probability, according to her. Is it a her or a him? I still haven't figured that out. Vera, that sounds like a her. But two things, simple things, introspection and then dream analysis. That's simple enough. But if you think about it, that really does make sense. Because every night before we go to sleep, before we shut off, before we go into, unconsciousness, when we fall asleep, and here lately, I've definitely been doing that. We do introspection. So what that means is we think about everything that happened during the day. Just think about everything that happened during the day. We're not worried about status. We're not worried about if people like us, if they don't like us. That's not it. What we're worried about is the golden rule and were we balanced? Did we keep a balanced approach in our life that day? Or were we unbalanced? And then the next day we try to fix it and don't do that again or keep doing the same good things or whatever. That's supposed to, according to Vera, keep our consciousness rising. And then we go to sleep. So our body rests. And when our body rests, the soul's actually doing its work. And so is the unconscious. And then when we wake up, we should try to remember our dreams every morning. Now, I did this yesterday. I try to do it every day, actually. And Vera Stanley Alder's not the first person that talked about this. I remember Joseph Daniel, when he was on the broadcast before, he talked heavily about introspection. So I think he said the same things, too, that doing these two exercises would keep us, where we would increase our state of awareness or our state of consciousness. So just doing those two things every day will increase your awareness and your soul growth. It's easy enough, right? No magic, no sigils, no crazy formula, and none of that stuff. But this is only if you believe that you have a life after this life. Like, believe it down to your core. Like, I know that I'm going to have a life after this life. So two things that I want to do. One, I want to try not to forget my individuality and forget everything about myself. Not just this life, but just my awareness, my individuality. And two, I want to fix the karma. The cause and effect of things. The things that are obviously here that I've had to work out for my soul growth from the time I was a kid on up, and not cause any more karma. And if I do, try to take care of it before I head on into the next one. Because think about this. Think about all of the stuff that you see on Facebook and, for those of you that watch tarot readings and stuff, all the pain and crap and toxicity and whatever it is that you're going through. It's either you or somebody else or both is a karmic thing happening. So if you're not fixing it, You can block it all day long, right? You can block it, run away from it, move into a higher vibration, all of that stuff. But if you don't make sure that if you don't make sure that the karma is fixed, then you are likely, according to these texts, going to experience it again and again and again. And no, I don't want to do that. Look, I want to go into my next life, hopefully, I want to go into my next life not having to deal with the shit that that I dealt with in this one. And I don't think that we do that by just running away from things or blocking things. We do that by not doing those things anymore. Right. I think Liam Thomas Christopher had a really good video on karma. So yeah, that's the two biggest things, right? Kill the karma, crush it, overcome it, dharma, right? And then do the introspection and dream analysis. And just those two things should help our soul grow. All right. Worth a shot, don't you think? Man, this thing is going to flicker as soon as I open this up. I wonder if, let me try something. I wonder if I open a different browser, if it'll do that. Page 152 is what page we're on. Turn to page 152 in your Vera Stanley Alder Bibles. I'm going to try to do this while the screen's going black and stuff like that. Yeah, so if you call it shit, it might force you to go through it again. Maybe. But I look at it all as a blessing, and shit is just a phrase for me. It's not a judgment, It's just a phrase. Like, shit happens. It doesn't mean that, it's like a t-shirt phrase. It's a saying. All right, let me try something here. What's up, Jay, by the way? Maybe this will fix it. Oh, hell no, that made it worse. Man, I missed the days. Do y'all hear that? Everything's going haywire on me. I really missed the days when I just did radio and I didn't have to deal with all this video stuff because it was so easy. I could just hide behind this microphone. You never had to look at me. I could just, lots of nights, just sit here in my underwear and broadcast, and you'd never know it. Never. What's up, Grant? Calamity Cat, formerly Madam Katarina. I also love cats, too. Yeah. Reinforced love. Like, my cat is so good. Leo's such a good cat, man. All he wants is love. And you get around a dog, and they just tear up crap, But they're loyal. Okay. So these, let's see. Yeah, so the breathing, you're right in the chat. So we got to work on the breathing too. Always. That helps too. So the Westerner who is making a beginning should adopt the Egyptian pose. That's like the God pose where you just sit in the chair, basically. Knees together, feet forward, kind of spread apart a little bit. Elbows at your side, and they put their feet on their lap, and they kind of bend the head straight down, look straight forward. So he must then commence to breathe deeply, silently, evenly, slowly through the nose and gradually perfect this process until he can perform it also unconsciously. The slower the breathing, the easier the control of the mind. But only that which can be performed without the slightest effort or strain is of any use for your purpose. I have audios too, then the breathing exercises, kind of like, it's not really anything new as far as the boxed breathing goes. The only difference is it's my voice guiding you. And I start out slow with, the boxed count to 4, exhale, count to 4, hold, inhale, that kind of thing. And then we move into visualizations while we're breathing. It's worth it. I think you can still get it free. If you have trouble relaxing, that is. Like I hear all of you say, not all of you, but some of you, like, oh, I love the sound of your voice. And then 2 days later, I'll hear you say, or see you say, I don't ever really hear you, but see you say, yeah, I have trouble relaxing, or I get anxious. Well, if you like the sound of my voice and you have trouble relaxing, I got some really good relaxation tapes. I'm the master of relaxing people, except myself. Now, So by means of these two preliminary steps, he's begun the process of stilling the vibrations of the first physical and then his etheric body. So we have to relax both, first the physical and then the etheric, according to Vera Stanley Alder. By means of these two preliminary steps, he's begun this process of stilling both vibrations. And the next and more difficult task is to tackle his emotional and mental equipment. He must drop all feeling, all stress, strain, and longing for accomplishment, all anxiety or excitement at the prospect in view. Excitement and emotions are formed of low, heavy, and noisy vibrations. And I think Robert Monroe actually called this stuff M-band noise in his books. Isn't it funny that his process and his audios and the Monroe Institute audios, when you read these books, they go right along with it. Relax, breathe, get really still, breathe, whatever. And then the next thing you do is you let go of your worries and your concerns. There remains now the brain, that bustling little typewriter which ceaselessly taps out the drifting of hurrying crowds of thought forms which float through it upon the ether. The aspirant must patiently, continuously, and without effort wipe these thoughts out as with a sponge upon a slate. This process also must be continued until it can be performed unconsciously. A difficult feat which may need months or years of practice. When, however, this has been accomplished, the practice of meditation becomes possible. So now it's possible to meditate, that you've accomplished these things. In some occult parlance, we are told to make the mind a blank for meditation, and these words lead to an entire misconception. If the ear is listening very intently for a certain sound, oblivious to all other sounds, we do not think that the hearing is blank. So on the contrary, it is actively at strict attention. So must the mind be in meditation, held at strict attention, ready to convey to the typewriter brain its interpretation of the impressions filtered through it by the fine vibrations of the inner activities, the subtler planes where knowledge is. The best time for meditation is said to be upon awakening at about 6 p.m. That doesn't make sense. Who wakes up at 6 p.m.? The best times for meditation are said to be upon awaking at 6 p.m. I think that's probably a typo. It should be practiced either before or several hours after a meal. The room should be dim or dark. The eyes should be facing a plane surface with, if desired, only symbolic maybe one object on which to concentrate on, or, if preferred, the eyes may be closed. Yeah, in the Golden Dawn, they make you focus in the neophyte work before you get into the grades or the elements. It's so boring, but it teaches you a lot. You just focus on a point in space, just like a point. That's it. That's your meditation. Other than the breathing and the ceremony, when you do your meditation, that's what you're supposed to do, is just focus on a fixed point and then start to consider how it is in space, so to speak, right? Eventually, you start to realize there are no straight lines. Everything is fuzzy and curved. The science itself is divided into 4 successive stages: concentration, meditation, contemplation, and then adoration. Only the first 2 are possible to any but the adept or full-fledged mystic. Nevertheless, we're going to describe them. So the process of concentration has already been partly analyzed. It consists in getting full control over the personality, and then when the aspirant's whole makeup is stilled and passive, and concentrating the attention of the brain to one point, keeping it clear, steady, and empty of stray thoughts, waiting to receive the information which the mind is collecting. When full concentration has been established, then meditation can begin. Meditation consists in studying with great thoroughness one object, subject, quality, or force in life. As we have before stated, the concentrated one-pointed mind is like a powerful burning glass or magnet. When turned or when tuned into a particular vibration of any object or quality, it can burn, I guess, a hole right through things. No, but it can burn through the truth of things. It can burn through the truth of it and draw to itself every connected thing with that same vibration. So, for instance, let's suppose you chose a violin as the subject of your meditation. You'll first concentrate upon the violin, building up in your mind a vivid and complete picture of the instrument as much as you're able to. Then, holding the picture steadily before your mind's eye, begin to meditate upon the instrument, endeavoring to learn everything possible about it. He traces its history, the wood and other substances from which it was made, the process of making, the story of its design, its passage through the hands of the dealers, and gradually it will be found that facts and information come to light of which the aspirant was hitherto unaware. That is the secret of meditation, the possibility of actually learning without books, by active mental contact with the information sought. The aspirant who wishes to learn of love, unselfishness, or the reality of the divine spirit can reach this knowledge through meditating positively but not vaguely upon it. Meditation can also be used to solve any of life's problems and difficulties. Simply state the problem in an absolutely dispassionate and impartial way. Set yourself apart from it, basically. And wait steadily for the ideas relating to it to be drawn to the mind. A fair solution will almost inevitably arrive. The Oxford group, now known as moral rearmament, use something of this idea for their quiet times, and needless to say, a little knowledge is a dangerous thing. It is better thoroughly to understand what is happening to avoid the danger of self-deception creeping in. Meditation has to do with all the outer aspects and expressions of an object or quality, all its physical plane attributes. The third stage, contemplation, has to do with the inner meaning, cause, and law behind any object or quality. In this case, the mind ceases its activity and allows the subject of contemplation to speak, to yield up its secret and reveal the mystery of its truth. Having fully meditated upon the violin, if the aspirant could pass into the stage of contemplation, the envisaged instrument would disappear, leaving a space. And through that space would play the colors and forces of the subtler planes, those which form the archetype or celestial pattern from which violins are made. The aspirant would learn the why and wherefore of a violin, its part in the evolutionary process, and the actual creative quality of its particular tone. These things would come to him in a form of knowledge, not clothed in words, and he would be at a loss how to best register and translate it for his physical use. The final stage, and the last stage of this science, is adoration. And of this, it is even less easy to speak about. Having learned both the outer and inner meaning of the subject, the aspirant has reached to the core of it. He discovers the core of it to be the same as the core of himself. Both spring from and are a part of the mind of the divine creator. Having pierced through to this glorious and blinding realization, the aspirant can lose himself for a brief spell in the knowledge of that perfect unity of love. And this is his moment of adoration. All right. Hold on just 1 second there, caller. Let's see, let me fix this real quick. Okay. My computer looks like it's about to blow up. If this thing blows up in my face, y'all are going to witness history here. Okay. All right. So through the steady practice of this, of meditation, man can cease to be known as a puppet dancing on the end of a string. There you go. We'll finish the chapter. I'm going to take this call before my computer completely blows up here. Hold on. Uh-oh. It might have just totally went out. Can y'all see me? So weird, man. Give me just 1 second here. I'm going to have to close this. See, I don't even know. It's kind of like being blind. I just suddenly went blind. It's like broadcasting blind. Okay. Are you still there, caller?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Hold on. Let me make sure I'm getting you through to the audience, too. Yeah, they should be able to hear you. Who am I speaking with?
Jenny.
What's up, Jenny? Sorry I missed your call yesterday.
It's all good. It wasn't meant to be yesterday. Excuse me.
So what do you want to tell us? Did you get out of body? Is that what you're calling about?
No, but you had wanted me to call before because I just kept getting to the vibratory state and nothing would happen. And then I hadn't had anything happen for a while. I was doing a meditation with a friend of mine. We were doing we were starting with the waves from Monroe. And for the first 3 or 4 times we did it, I would send him numbers and colors, and he was getting it. And then it just stopped completely.
Really?
Last night, I was just going to call. Yeah, it was. I had them written down. I'll try to post them in Discord. But he was, like, on point with certain colors. Like, I said magenta because, like, who the fuck is, sorry. Like, who's going to know magenta? And he's like, I saw magenta. Like, it popped up at me. I'm like, how the hell? I try to pick the most like outlandish color instead of just, purple or something like that. And he was getting them. So like I said, it happened a couple times, which is pretty cool.
So are you talking about later, like in the later in the advanced Monroe techniques, not just the first?
No, we just got to the advanced like a week ago. We just kept doing the first 2.
Okay.
And we were having things pop up and then it completely stopped. So we're like, you know what, let's go to the next one and see what happens. And we weren't getting much of anything. But I was still trying to get out of body.
When you say pop up, do you mean like, were you laying there with your eyes open trying to get out of body? Or did you see it in your mind?
No. It was just, I would have things like appear sometimes. Like I had like a light come to me.
Oh.
And I thought I was going to get out, and that didn't happen. But so last night, or early this morning, actually, I woke up with really bad anxiety. Didn't know why. So I was like, screw it. I got up. I was like, let me just stay up. I threw a podcast on. I had my headphones on. It was actually those conspiracy guys with Gordo. And it was about pyramids. So I threw it on, and I ended up falling asleep. And while I was sleeping, I tried to take the headphones off. But I couldn't get them off, and then I felt a weight on my chest, and I couldn't breathe. So I'm like, all right, we need to get these headphones off. And I was struggling, and then I realized I was dreaming. I was like, oh shit, you're in it, girl. You got this. Just relax and just roll out. So I kept trying to do that, but as I kept trying to roll out, the weight got heavier on my chest, and I continued, like I just couldn't breathe at all. Like I felt like if something was holding me down. And I panicked, and then I ended up waking up. But I knew I was lucid dreaming, because I was like, all right, you're in it. You got this. Because I can hear the podcast still in my ear. And when I woke up, I replayed, like, the last 15 minutes, and I remembered everything that he said. I was like, I was listening to it, and I was lucid because I can hear everything that was happening, but I just couldn't roll out and go into the astral. I just got too much anxiety, and I just panicked.
Yeah. So how long have you been getting vibrations for? Like since it first started?
Anytime I meditate, I would get vibrations, but nothing else would happen.
Really?
I didn't know how to get to that next level.
Huh. Yeah. See, just to be honest with you and everybody else, like I don't ever try to do this from meditation, or I guess I could say it's almost happened from meditation a couple times. It's always just been like laying down and relaxing. But if you slip into a lucid dream, if you're able to feel your body in that lucid dream, that's still pretty good. I think you should just keep going because you're just getting closer and closer. And
Yeah.
another thing too is like, I think some people, when they have, you could tell me probably better with your experience, but when they have a sleep paralysis, like some people just feel vibrations and they go numb, but other people actually feel like, they're dying. So it's really scary for them,
It's super, and I've had this sleep paralysis since I was a kid. This would happen to me. Like there's dreams that I've had and I still remember. I don't have the dreams anymore, but I remember them vividly. And I remember having the sleep paralysis and trying to wake myself up from it, like, come on, and just not being able to breathe and panicking and then ripping myself out. Like I would wake myself up, like moaning and trying to call out in my sleep for someone to help me because I just couldn't breathe. And I haven't had that happen in a very long time.
Yeah.
And another thing too, in the middle of the night, I smelled the smoke again, which I've been smelling more frequently. So I don't know what the hell that is, but. And then a couple times where I was meditating, I would see like, I don't have the room completely dark, but I don't have any other, I just have like the dim lights on in my room. I would see a bright, like white light flash in my eyes. And that happened to me a few times while I was sleeping. And I wake up thinking someone was taking a picture of me in the middle of the night, and I wake up to a completely dark room. So I've had very different experiences, but just nothing of the astral travel yet.
It sounds like a lot of. Hasn't any of this ever been pleasant for you though? Like, has it always been kind of
some
freaky?
of the things, like other than the sleep paralysis, anything else I've never felt like I was in danger. Other than like I said, the sleep paralysis. All the other things are just I'll wake up. Sometimes I'll feel a presence in my room. I've had many other things happen in my life. Well, that'll be for another time, but. I never felt scared or if I was in any danger or anything. But the sleep paralysis, I haven't had that in years. And it was like I was already up for a while. So I was up, I think, like at 4:35 a.m. And when I fell asleep, it was maybe close to 7. So it was almost like in a nap. And any other time that I felt the sleep paralysis, it was while I was napping. I've never had it during the night while I was sleeping. It's always been from a nap.
That's trippy.
Which, I don't know if that means anything, if that's ever happened to anyone else.
No. So when you talk about trying to wake yourself up, I've done that. Like, but it's never like a feeling of that I can't breathe. It's just a feeling like I need to wake up so I'll try to wake myself up, and I can feel my eyes rolling in the back of my head, and I can feel myself kind of trying to growl or moan or something like you were talking about, trying to wake up. But I've never experienced that I'm aware of. Yeah, actually I have one time, but it didn't feel like I couldn't breathe. It felt like something took my breath away, if that makes sense.
I never thought of it that way. No, it just feels like I have something holding me down because I can't lift I tried to lift up.
Oh, you're breaking up a little.
What happened was
there you are.
Oh, am I?
Now I can hear you now.
They don't want us talking about this.
Yeah.
The few times, the other times that it happened was like if I was sleeping on the couch. Like I said, 'cause it was like naps.
Never
But
where
like
you sleep though. It never happens in your bed, right?
No, well, just this one time this morning, because I was already in bed and I just threw my headphones on and I just stayed laying in bed. But I had like my pillows around me, which I don't know if that helped at all. I felt like the other times that it did happen, I was like it just felt like if something was on top of me, and I was like, yeah, you're not gonna get up at all. And I would fight like to try to get up so hard. And that's the scary part, because I'm trying to get up and I can't, and then something's holding me down, and I just feel like the weight being pressed on my chest.
So what if you did like what all the teachers teach, all of them? Just hear me out, okay? Mm-hmm. Face and tell me what you think about this too, because it sounds easy, but it's not. So first, try to like come to terms of your fear of death, right? And then face it, and in some sense of the word, like realize that you might die and be okay with it. I know this sounds crazy, but if you can get to that point in your mind, you should be able to just let go, even though you can't breathe. It's really hard because it's not just your mind. Your body is trained to freak out if you can't breathe most of the time. Like it wants to survive too. So that makes it even more difficult, you know?
I think it's, in the back of my mind, because I do feel after the research and things that I've read that, I don't think I have a fear of death. I think it's a fear of leaving the people that I love behind. But once I'm gone, like, I don't think I will have that. I'll just be in bliss. But you're right. I think it's just like this human form that we're in is what's like, okay, you need to breathe because that's how you're going to keep living.
The only time
But
I
never thought of
remember
it.
that I couldn't breathe, Jenny, was like that. My whole body felt hot, almost like I was inside of a fire, and then I couldn't breathe.
Ooh.
And then, but I was in my car, just chilling in my seat and taking a nap and just kind of relaxing. But I was listening to the Monroe stuff. And just for a second, it felt like something took my breath away. And then my body got really hot, not like a hot flash, but it was like heat all around me, not just in my body too,
Yeah, the temperature of your body went up.
This is the problem, right? Because I think it's different for everybody. Yeah. I can't feel what you feel,
Document it.
and you can't feel what I feel. And just like the guy that we're going to bring on the show that got shot 8 times, so he's coming on Tuesday. He said that,
Nice.
but his was like an NDE, but it's still the same thing. OBE, NDE, it's still the same transition. And he said that he felt cold, like really cold. But maybe that's because his body was dying, and that's what he was feeling, was like the cold of death or something,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know either. I wouldn't want anyone to feel that sleep paralysis that I felt. It's scary. And I knew that's what was happening in my dream, and I was still trying to like calm myself, and it just took over, and I couldn't. I was like, all right, we're going to roll out. We're going to roll out, girl. You got this. And I was hyping myself up in my dream, and I just couldn't do it. I was like, shit, I was there.
So what was your plan in the dream to like roll out? I mean, do like Muldoon said and pretend you're
look at
like
myself, I guess.
you just command
sorry?
it. Just command it. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I don't know any other way. So I'm like, all right, I just think of what Monroe says. He's like, all right, I'm just going to roll out. He makes it seem like it's so easy just to roll out. To me, when I thought of it, I was like, I was laying in the middle of my bed. So I was like, I just thought to roll out to the left. That's the only thing I thought of because that's where there's more space. And I was like, I don't need space to roll out because it's not my damn body leaving, it's my astral. But that's what I was thinking.
Yeah. Yeah, this is weird. I wish I could help people with this more because I've never had like that kind of, for me, it's like when your arm, how when you lay on your arm too long or something like that.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That's what it feels like for me. Like if my whole body will start tingling, it'll tingle and then it'll go to numbness and then it'll just feel like it's not there. And then it'll just kind of vibrate, like it's kind of like when you're laying on your arm or something, and it's just going to sleep. Like it doesn't feel.
But it's I totally understand that because I have that issue all the time. But the vibrations that I was getting before, it was like if I was sitting on a huge, like bass, like or like a subwoofer, not a bass. Like if you have a huge subwoofer that they have like at a club or something.
Yeah.
If I was sitting on that, that's the vibrations that I would feel throughout my body.
Yeah. Yeah, that kind of makes sense because that's what it does feel like. Yeah. But I guess I'm just not experiencing the paralysis. You know what it is, man? It's the fear, I think. Maybe some people just do it instantly. Mine's kind of slow and gradual, Damn. Because now I'm hoping that you don't stop. Do you think it stopped, or do you think you're going to be able to keep doing it?
No, I think I'll be able to. I think I just need to do something different.
So some of the tricks.
I was.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Nope. You go.
Well, some of the tricks that Muldoon talked about, if you're dreaming, is to any kind of dream that you can get in where you're rising, like flying or rising. So if you can dream about an elevator, or if you can make yourself fly or whatever in your lucid dream, you should be able to command or get your body out too. I'd probably have to go back and listen to those. My recall sucks, but that was his method from lucid dreaming to OBE, right? Make sure that you have some type of dream where you're going up an elevator or flying or something. I mean, you could fall for sure, but what happens in dreams when we fall is it happens so fast it jerks us and we wake up. But if we're slowly rising, though, that's different, you know.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know, because I've never gotten out of body from a lucid dream. I've gotten out of body and then felt a dream start to come in and take over the whole experience, which is really weird. But yeah.
I haven't lucid dreamed in a while. I feel like that's why I wasn't able to get through last night. And then for that to happen, I haven't had anything happen in so long. And for this to happen last night, I was like, yes, progress. And I stopped my meditations for a couple days, and I just was like, you know what, let me just rewind, go back to what I was doing before. I feel like I was trying to do too much. I was reading too many books. I was listening to too many different podcasts. I had too many of outer influences, and it was like muddling everything. So I was like, I need to go back to what I was doing previously, and then slowly just pick one thing and stick with that and do it.
Yeah, your ability to, so another thing too is your ability, like what we're talking about in this book, your ability to focus just on one thing. And this is why I think like Monroe's stuff works, or any voice guided OBE stuff works, because you can just focus on one thing, you know. And then if you start to drift, they're usually like, just listen to my voice or come back to it or whatever. I just don't, I wish there was some, I don't know why I feel like I want to help, because I feel like you're this close, because you've been getting to this vibratory state. I've been noticing in the Discord for a while. You've been talking about it, you know. I think Grant too.
It stopped, and I was just like, damn, what did I do? Why is it not coming back to me? So
you could have possibly like overstimulated your mind, like you said.
Yeah. I was like, it's been like a week and a half. So my buddy, he's still doing his meditation and things like that. But I was like, I need a break because it's not working and I'm getting discouraged and I don't want to do it anymore. So I'll probably start up again after the holiday, maybe.
After Christmas?
Because last night, just after tomorrow, maybe. maybe over the weekend.
Okay. Yeah, because
Christmas is too far along.
It takes some dedication. It really does, I think, you know, and then you'll get out. Do you have to have some kind of like subconscious desire for it? You know what I mean? Like you got to. And you do?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Sorry. I definitely do. Yeah. It's all I think about when I'm at work, because I'm a chef. So I try to listen to different podcasts when I can, and I think, like I said, I think I just overdid it with other people's influence, trying. So that's why I like coming back to you and listening to what you have to say. Because when I started listening to you again is when things started happening. And then I was on you, and then picking out too many books, and then listening to too many other people thinking, and my brain just doesn't stop either. So I'm always second guessing everything.
Yeah, the thing is, the big part of this is relaxation. I think people like relaxation and being able to focus is so mundane. It's boring, right? People don't want to talk about that. That's not conspiratorial, or it's not fascinating or whatever. But it is like the key to you having a mystical experience or having an OBE, your ability to relax like a cat. So think about getting to a point where every muscle in your body, every nerve ending, every muscle, even the bones, even your eyelashes are relaxed, right? Sometimes I think this would be a good thing. Maybe we should all try this, is just meditate on a cat and watch it relax. You know what I mean? And say like, I need to learn to do that. Because I promise you, if you can relax like a cat does, you know, you're not going to have any issues getting at least to the vibratory state. You should be able to do it every time, you know.
Yeah.
But we're not relaxed. Most of us today, in order to relax, we either fall flat asleep or we have to take something to relax, like melatonin or whatever they're selling in the store. God forbid, anything else like weed or Xanax, which is really going to prevent you from having an OB. And if you do, you damn sure aren't going to remember it,
Yeah. Bourbon usually helps.
Yeah. Well, thanks for calling. If you should call back.
Thank you.
Well, I want to ask you this. I got a weird feeling that you're not talking about this, but I have to ask. Like, have you seen something, like had a negative experience that's affected you other than the paralysis? Like, has there been something that's kind of traumatized you that you saw or experienced while all this was going on?
Not while this is going on, but I've had other experiences.
Like when you're a kid, I mean, you said it's been happening since you're a kid.
So I don't tell many people, but I had when I was 2 years old, I had an operation done for like my adenoids and my tonsils. I was a baby.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember being in the hospital, and I remember looking at the doctors, and I told my mom this when I got older. So, like, I feel like that was my trauma. So I remember looking at them, and then I remember waking up in the hospital crib. It's like a metal crib with metal bars, and it was cold. And I told my mom this, and she was like, "You were 2. How can you remember that?" And she, like, was able to say, like, yes, you were, like, the room. I told her what I was in, like, from what I remembered. And that was like my first memory. So I feel like that was my trauma that I'm dealing with for my whole life. And ever like certain memories that I had growing up, I shouldn't remembered, and I have. But then other things that I want to remember, I can't. So I don't know if that has anything to do with it.
Yeah, well, no, I was thinking of more of something like trauma based, because there's and if it's not, it's not. I'm not trying to make a story here, but usually the people that I've talked to that have sleep paralysis issues, they've had something like that since they were a kid, and they've had something happen to them, whether it's been like a nightmare or the old hag kind of thing or whatever, something that's happened to them that kind of buried in their subconscious. So a lot of our blocks, hell, I guess a lot of the crap that we all carry from it starts from when we're a kid, like, but
yeah.
it could affect like the OB state too. So I don't know. Maybe I'm overcomplicating it. Look, just relax and focus and just let it happen, I guess,
I'll try. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for calling. It's good. It's good to hear you, and call back anytime.
All right. Have a good night.
All right, Jenny.
And thank you, Joe. Thank you for everything you do. Appreciate you.
Yeah, absolutely. I love doing this. So
good. We love having you.
Right on. You have a good night.
You too. Bye-bye.
Right, bye-bye. There goes Jenny. Okay. Well, I mean, that's kind of, look, I would like to get at least 4 or 5 of us getting out of body all the time, and then kind of having our own explorative thing, but for the more, I mean, I've been studying this stuff for years, practicing it for years. The more I look into this, the more I realize we've categorized lots of things, like out of body, astral travel, the vibratory state, the etheric double. We've categorized things, but if you really pay attention to the details of every person's story, I think Muldoon is pretty damn close to telling the truth about the stages of these things that happen. But everybody's experience is so unique and different. Their traumas are different. Their bodies act different. Not being able to breathe is a scary thing, even if you know it's going to happen, How do you relax through that? That's the question. Because I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not an expert at this. I don't believe that there are experts in the OBE community. I don't believe that's even possible. Especially anybody calling themselves an astral travel expert. it's too elusive. There's too many variables to be an expert at it. But when they talk about accepting, like what's his name that you guys have been asking me to look up, I forget his name, Darius, that guy. He talks about, just working through your fear of death is a lot of it, and being able to relax through it and just being able to let go. And that sounds easy enough. It's almost like if you did a psychedelic or something and someone's, just let go or whatever. Sounds easy enough. But if you've got underlying traumas, or if you really can't breathe, almost to the feeling like if it's a drowning effect, you're unconscious and your body itself is programmed to survive, right? So that's going to make things difficult, I think. And it's not fair. And I want to reiterate this. It's not fair because other people like me, when I have my really good OBE experiences, it's like a slow, there's nothing scary. It's like a slow numbing, almost if like your body's tingling and then falls asleep, and then it's totally gone. And then the vibrational waves happen for me, like the subwoofer, like Jenny was talking about. I feel that, but I don't feel any that I'm aware of that I can't breathe, or it's just super relaxed. Yeah. We'll figure it out. Let me finish this chapter and then we'll do the top of the hour thing if this thing doesn't blow up on me here. So, having learned both the outer and the inner meaning of the subject, you've reached to the core of it. You've discovered the core of meditation is the same as being to the core of yourself. And both of these spring from and are a part of the mind and the divine creator. Through the steady practice of meditation, man can cease to be as a puppet dancing on the end of a string jerked by some unknown hand. He can learn to climb the string with his mind and will take control of the hand. He can become the friend and associate of the owner of the hand, and finally, gain the freedom of complete identification with him. It must always be remembered when trying to describe non-physical states that physical language contains no suitable words or phrases. The unaccustomed brain must be presented with a simile only. When, through study or meditation, the brain has developed and adjusted itself, the same truths can be presented in a more advanced manner, which will not have been understood before. So it's true to say that there is always much that is superficially incorrect in occult teachings, and in, for instance, such a book as this, because the neophyte brain must be coaxed along step by step. What am I doing here? This thing just popped up on my screen. It looks like a countdown almost. Maybe it's the countdown for my screen to explode. So you must be coaxed step by step. I think we get it. The pill of truth coated with the sugar of inaccuracy until it becomes palatable in its pure form. Books or no books, the truth is always there for us who desire it. Another type of work for those who wish to push forward is group meditation, or the blending of a small group of people to meditate in unselfish brotherhood together. I'm thinking Vera Stanley Alder's a dude because everything that he relates to is a guy. Inasmuch as this calls for the breaking down of many of the barriers that exist between the nicest of people, barriers of self-consciousness, intolerance, criticism, and egocentricity, it is obviously a very fine practice. Christ said, "Where two or three are gathered together in my name, there I am in the midst of them," thus pointing out that unity is strength on spiritual as well as on the physical levels. So it may be inquired whether prayers do not suffice instead of meditation. But prayers are the 5-finger exercises, the ABC of spiritual growth. As such, they will forever play their part. But he who is not content to remain spiritually in the nursery will sooner or later require to put himself more individually in touch with the realities. That is I guess the end of the meditation part. I'm going to try to work this out. I'm going to try to fix this thing. I don't know if you guys on YouTube are aware of this, but most of the time tonight, I'm just staring at a complete blank screen. And yeah, about 70% of it is. Okay. Here's a little neon head. We'll be right back.
Fan of the Fridge FM, challenging everyone to open their mind's eye. Listen to Lighting the Void with Joe Roop to gain precision for your third eye vision.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
I was in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean when it happened. There was a sudden jolt and our submarine crashed on the seafloor. We were in total darkness.
That's Dr. Dejana Figueroa, a marine biologist and STEM teacher, talking about a deep sea dive she'll never forget.
It's funny, when I was a kid, I was afraid of the ocean. And there I was, 2 miles below the surface. But as a scientist, you prepare for that. Using our training and a little creativity, we fixed the sub and finished our experiments. The dive was just too important. Every dive gives us glimpses at things few people ever get to see. Glowing creatures, fiery undersea volcanoes. When we got back to the surface, I kissed the ground and called my mom, of course. But you know what? I wouldn't trade that dive for anything.
Dr. Figueroa uses her passion for STEM to discover new things and make the world a better place. She can STEM, so can you. Check out She Can STEM for more stories and inspiration. A message from the Ad Council.
Do you want to know the truth? Are UFOs real? Are aliens visiting Earth? Are governments around the world hiding the biggest secret in history? We're UFO Seekers, official partner of The Fringe FM, and we're on a hunt for the truth. Join us as we investigate locations like Area 51 by subscribing on YouTube at youtube.com/UFO Seekers.
Hi, this is Kronox from Belgium, and you're listening to Lighting the Void with Joe Roop.
Have you ever wondered, what do the stars say for me? Or, will the next month or the next year be more favorable? How about, are our two signs compatible? Each month, at the new moon, you can ask these questions live with me, your astrologer psychic, Mary DeCina, along with host of Lighting the Void, Joe Root. Join us at the new moon for Cosmic Conditions. We look forward to working with your energy.
Every new moon at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern, right here on Fringe FM.
My name is Jake. I'm from Billings, Montana, and I am a void walker.
Hey, Joe Root. Thanks for lighting the void. This is Janine in the bluegrass of Kentucky, and I am a void walker.
What's up, guys? This is Damien from San Marcos, Texas, and I'm a void walker. I listen to the show to keep myself aligned with the world.
Hi, this is Laura, aka Laura Lavender. I'm from Las Vegas, and I listen to Lighting the Void because it helps me understand some of the strangest experiences I've had. So thanks for all that you do and for always being there for us, Joe.
Broadcasting from Forest Tower Studios, all the way from the Deep South. Now, here is your host, Joe Root.
£3 chicken wing by Deadmau5. Right? Grant gets out, says, "Good Lord, Joe, we pray for your PC." It's always something, man. It's like driving a Chevy, you know? You got to change stuff all the time. I think it's this program here is the one that I'm using to stream with is using 40% of my CPU, and I think NVIDIA just dropped a new driver, so that's probably it. But I appreciate your help. All right. Let's get back into it, hopefully. If not, we're going to have to cut this short. So, by the way, man, I can't wait to hear Mark's story. You guys, it's different for me because I know the guy. You know, it's kind of like knowing somebody that is just, you know, they don't know if they believe in the OB experience or not. You've known them your whole life. They're just kind of not normal, but everyday average person that doesn't think about these things. And they know that you think about them. They know that you talk about them. And then one day something happens to them, something unfortunate, like, you know, getting shot 8 times. I don't know the whole story about that. And I'll probably get into some details that have nothing to do with the out-of-body experience just because he's a friend of mine and I want to know what happened. I want to know how a guy comes to break into someone's house and shoots them 8 times, especially around where I live. That kind of stuff just don't happen, man. But I talked to him again today. We set a date for Tuesday for next week, and he told me a little bit more about the experience, and that he says he got out of body or went out of body 4 times that he remembers of. 4 times that he can recall, which he's aware that he got out of body more. He said he talked to a guy or a person that was there guiding him, telling him that everything was going to be okay, that it wasn't his time to go, that he just needed to chill, but that he wanted him to observe and look around and then tell everybody what he saw. And what he told me that he saw at the hospital was all kinds of people in the astral realm going in and out, especially around surgery and stuff. So, man, I don't know. It's going to take a lot for me to get through this story, man. Like, I hope I can get it all in one night. Not a famous guy, just a normal person like us. Yeah, but also another thing too is he's had a heart attack. He had a heart attack years before this. So he survived a lot for some reason. He's just one of those dudes, you know. And I asked him today, I said, man, who is this guy? Where's he from? So the story goes like this, or a part of the story. The guy that broke into his house that shot him 8 times had already killed 2 people before he tried to kill him. And apparently what this guy does is he goes around and tries to pick out people that he thinks that he could scare or intimidate, and then tries to get money from them. If they don't do what he wants, well, then he tries to rob them. Real winner. He messed with the wrong hombre this time, though. We'll get more details when he comes on the broadcast next week. Guys, I don't really know what to do here, because if I pull up the book and I try to read the book, we're at the end of this thing, the history of wisdom, which is very interesting to me, but I just don't see it happening, man. Like, it's getting too crazy tonight. So I'm probably gonna have to end this short, honestly, because I have no notes. I can't just stare unless you guys want to do like open lines or something, but you have to call in. I'm not gonna beg you to call. And then we'll just roll out of here till I get this damn thing fixed. I would have fixed it sooner, but today is one of those days where I worked both jobs today. I worked the regular slave job, and then I worked on my business job painting houses, so I didn't get home till a little after dark, and I had to relax and unwind a little bit. But I think the gist of the history of wisdom is probably going to go something like, let's see, like a try here. Let me try something. We'll try one more thing before we totally give up. I didn't even start the radio station encoder, so people have to come from the radio here. So let's try it. If it starts freaking out on me again, I'm just going to squash the show tonight. All right. So both the Bible and the history book, while being compiled for us, have passed through intensive censorships. That's a freaking understatement. Besides suffering at the hands of unenlightened translators, the result is that our orthodox education, both in religion and history, is often very misleading, and it keeps us in complete ignorance of large and vital aspects of humans' history and humanity's evolution. Much of the records of the knowledge to which we would like to have access has been carefully guarded, secreted, and even destroyed during periods when it was considered more expedient to keep the people in ignorance. Nothing like people keeping you in the dark and lying to you, taking your choices and your truth away. Dumb bitches. Nevertheless, there is still a wealth of literature all over the world awaiting the explorer. If he pursues his inquiries with patience and discrimination, the following points will come to light. The history of this earth is not what we think it is. The history of this earth is indefinitely older than the modern historian admits. There exist many various sects, orders, and religious and philosophical fraternities who all possess exhaustive records and treaties describing the evolution of man upon this planet and of the part that our solar system plays in the cosmic scheme. If the pure and original root of these different beliefs can be uncovered, it will be found to be identical in most respects. In each case, we'll discover that one God overall was acknowledged, and that the existence of the hierarchy was well understood, and was tabulated, and represented under the names of various gods and goddesses, nature spirits, and even demons. The 7 great spirits, their colors, attributes, and elements, the 7 planes, and man's 7-fold bodies were all carefully studied and analyzed. The great cosmic cycles and periods, as we find always, but the great cosmic cycles and period as ruled by the signs of the zodiac and all the astrological influences, both psychic and chemical, were subject to intensive research. What the hell was that? The laws of rebirth and karma were embodied in all these beliefs. We find at the zenith of their civilization, the various great ancient nations had perfected this knowledge and by its means produced immortal monuments to their science, such as the Great Pyramid. It transpires that such a golden period in the history of a nation was followed by crystallization, stagnancy, degeneration, and a final breaking up, leaving only distorted, misunderstood relics of the once great knowledge. We learn that such great cycles were said to occur regularly under astrological influences, which provide for the continual recommencing of man's lessons on a higher turn of the spiral of evolution. This is so that his development becomes ever subtler and more complete. And before each new surge forward of enlightenment, man must be borne down within the crouching wave and submerged in darkness and ignorance. Why? In all these records, reference is made to the wonderful Golden Age, which occurred on the continent of Atlantis, which was said to have submerged during its preceding period of degeneration. Mankind was said to have been taught the ageless wisdom by the gods themselves upon Atlantis, and to have carried its remnants with them all, or in all directions as they fled to safer lands. The story of Noah and the ark is repeated in many tongues and in not very varied guise. The Atlanteans were said to have founded the Egyptian culture and to have built the Sphinx, and their descendants built the pyramids. It is even believed that the early Egyptian religion thus founded was the father of all the faiths which have spread across Europe and Asia, as far as the Equinox and the Equimox and the Laplanders, and as far east as China and Japan. In South America, also perhaps the greatest of Atlantean colonizations took place, but at a still earlier date. There have been at least 300 books written about Atlantis. The remains of its root language are said to be found in identical form among the Welsh, Irish, Western Spanish, and the Canary Islands, Azores, Easter Island, and in Mexico, as well as certain practices and beliefs. The Druids of England were believed to be the descendants of Atlanteans who built Stonehenge and other little understood monuments in the British Isles. We find also that a realization and consciousness of the inner realities was the prerogative of ancient man all over the world, even if he lived as a barbarian. Sorry. When he said prerogative, my ADD set in and Bobby Brown song kicked in my head. It's my prerogative. I don't know, man. I got a jukebox going on in my head all the time. So the ancient barbarians, all the way from the Atlanteans to the barbarians to the men of today, man, things have changed, right? So he did not need to believe in an afterlife in a world of spirits. He knew. He didn't need to believe. He saw ghosts and he understood their significance. Oh no, he understood their difference from spirits. He communed with his dead. He knew of the nature spirits who ruled the elements. He understood their qualities, colors, and their prototypes among the animals. He used animal effigies to represent them. The Zuni Indians prayed to 7 great nature gods by means of the 7 colors painted on their prayer sticks. The Tibetans also pray in accordance with colors and design different colored masks embellished with a large third eye for their devil dances. In New Guinea, the doctors paint their patients with the colors of the particular spirits needed to effect a cure. The early Britons painted themselves with the colors needed to stimulate their prowess. The color of the spirit of darkness was usually black, of light white, of water and vegetarian green, of air blue, and of fire red. There was always the one great spirit over all whose color was gold. In Egypt, Horus was white, Osiris black, Shu was red, Amen was blue, and Num was green. The Egyptian wisdom was brought to a high point under Ptah in the Temple of Memphis. Wise men and students traveled from all over the world to study with the Egyptian priesthood, whose famous pupils included Moses, Jesus, and Pythagoras. It is said, but we don't know that for a fact, do we? The Egyptians named, described, and drew man's 7 bodies, and went fully into all his activities after death. They understood the etheric, astral, mental, and spiritual planes, also purgatory, paradise, and the successive heavens. In their renowned collection of pictures and writings called the Book of the Dead, most of their beliefs are set forth. They considered each human being as living with one goal in view, that of perfecting his character in earthly life in preparation for his journey through the nether, or the astral planes, and his gradual progress through the subtler planes to paradise, or the heaven world, helped by various workers and representatives of the spiritual hierarchy. The greater part of the Egyptian consciousness was concentrated upon the path of attainment and the evolution of mankind. By means of astronomy and astrology, they mapped out a wonderful and stupendous panorama of the plan of evolution and the history of the world. They originated the belief in the Messiah, whom they called the ever-coming one. He was the Egyptian Jesus, called Esua or Horus, and he was born every 2,500 years, or every time the earth passed into the next sign of the zodiac. And during each of these great 2,000-year periods, he embodied the quality, lessons, and types of the sign. For instance, under the sign of Leo, Esua or Horus, Usa or Horus, was worshipped as a young lion, and it's probable that the Sphinx was raised in his honor. He was born as a Scarabaeus in Cancer 10 to 12,000 years ago, in which sign was also the crib or manger star, and that of the ass. During that period, the scarab was worshipped. During the sign of Taurus, the bull, he was born and worshipped as the golden calf. And during the Jewish dispensation, he was reborn as a lamb in the sign of Aries, the ram. And finally, in the Christian era, in the sign of Pisces, the fish, he came as the Jesus Christ of the New Testament. The sign of Jesus was a fish, which is still engraved upon the Pope's seal ring. The early Christians were known as the, what is that? The Pisciculi? The Pisciculi? The cross was used 7,000 years ago in Egypt to represent the power that upholds the human soul in death. The story of Jesus, of the Annunciation, the virgin birth, of his baptism, temptation, teaching, miracles, disciples, the Last Supper, and his resurrection had all existed and been elaborated in Egypt for 10,000 years. Apparently, it was merely adapted by the writers of, the New Testament and modeled onto the life of the new great Messiah, with certain alterations which clouded some of its deeper meanings. There's only space to touch on this interesting subject here, which can be studied at the student's leisure. But each of these great religions had its book of records and teachings, which were the outer ring of students. This book was also always supplemented by commentary written for the inner circle of the priesthood, explaining the secret symbolism of the book and the mysteries therein concealed. Sometimes there was a second and third commentary given the deepest inner meanings, and these keys or commentaries were carefully guarded and hidden, and in many cases have apparently disappeared altogether. Bastards. You know who did it, right? It was the church, the Holy Roman Church. The ancient Indian philosophy began, they probably started hiding stuff way before then, though. So the ancient Indian philosophy began with the Veda, including the Upanishad books and their great commentaries. The Rig and Yajurvedas are some of the earliest records of Aryan thought. They come between the Egyptian and the Greek civilizations and are assigned to about 5000 BC. They worshipped a heavenly father, Adyan's Pitar, and spirits controlling the elements. They had a very deep conception of the one God, and the Indian book of moral code called the Laws of Manu taught conscience and moderation and the striving for a spiritual, quote, second birth. All 10 of the Indian philosophies taught reincarnation. Shankara, born about 788 AD, was the great Indian saint and elucidator of the Upanishads. He wrote one of the world's masterpieces, his commentary on the Brahman Sutras, the Upanishads, and his, quote, Song of the Lord, or the Bhagavad Gita. He was a great adept in yoga. But yoga is not a religion, it's a science, a method of yoking up with the Supreme Self, a practice of extreme discipline for the attainment of perfection. A yogin is one who has studied yoga, often at the Buddhist University of Nalanda. The Buddha was the great Indian mystic founder of Buddhism. The Buddhist philosophy is based on the law of karma, and the Brahmins believe Buddha to be the reincarnation of Vishnu, their ancient teacher. They absorbed his teachings, which also took hold in Tibet, China, and in Japan among the Zen monks. But the Tibetans also have a Book of the Dead containing the Bod, which is a guidebook to the dying during the 49 days which constitute the intermediary stage between death and the union of the divine. Passages from this book are read to the deceased for 49 days after their death, while he is supposed to be passing through the 3 lower astral planes and viewing the panorama of his created thought forms. And he finally realizes illusion and craves a new rebirth. He's exhorted to believe in the one great divinity of whom he is a part. In Persia, there is a fine philosophy that was cultivated, and this was the Sufis with its book, the Avesta. This was built upon a very early worship of the sun god Mithra, which at one time held great sway in Europe, as well as upon the teachings of the prophet Zoroaster. The Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam is inspired by Sufism, and the Sufis find ecstasy through losing themselves in union with the divine spirit. Some of the fakirs, that's what it says, but it's fakirs or fakers, fakirs, I'm just going to call it fakirs. Some of the fakirs and dervishes are their offshoots, but these are sometimes degenerated. You know, those fakirs, always degenerated. The Mohammedans possess a great wealth of philosophy in their book, the Quran, which also teaches an aspiration to unity with the one God. In China, the religion, whether Buddhist or Taoist, is built upon the teachings of Confucius, and Confucius was a very practical teacher and social organizer. Born in 551 BC, he worked to develop social science and the building up of individual character, and did much to bind China together. He was almost a contemporary of Buddha and was greatly influenced at one time by Lao Tzu. His pupils recorded his teachings in a book called The Digested Conversations, a large part of which was burnt later during the Tizan dynasty, with the usual object of keeping the people in ignorance. Confucius believed in the one God overall, and in 3 types of subsidiary spirits. He called himself the transmitter of the wisdom of the ancients. Lao Tzu, sometimes I think people call him Lao Tzu, but Lao Tzu was the Chinese Jesus. He was born of a mother conceived under a falling star, a virgin mother. He was a high mystic and left a famous book called the Tao Te King, which expounded a moral code for the way of attainment. Tao means way and represents the aspiration of the Taoists. Lao Tzu believed in reincarnation, karma, and the victory of gentleness. The Japanese state religion was Shinto, and Shinto means the way of the spirits, and some of the Japanese became Buddhists, and nearly all of them became Confucians as well. Then there was a very stern type of Buddhism called Zen, which gained great sway in China and was finally transplanted to Japan. The Zen classic is a poem called The Taming of the Bull, the bull being, of course, the animal nature or materialism. The Zen monks originated jujitsu, which has a deep scientific and mystical origin and was practiced by their famous samurai warriors. The Greek philosophers, founded by Pythagoras, Plato, and others, upon the Egyptian teachings, accepted rebirth and other of the ancient doctrines. The Jews, even the Jews, have their own great book of ancient records called the Kabbalah, and their inner meanings of these writings were sought and studied by the famous alchemists of the Middle Ages. Finally, let's get down to the truth here. So the Christian church, as founded in Rome, guarded many priceless manuscripts. It accepted reincarnation and karma, as it said that Christ had also done. But from the first general council of Christendom at Nicaea in AD 325 to the last council in Constantinople in AD 869, Christian principles, rules, and teachings were subject to many deletions and changes. The result was to decrease public knowledge for the aggrandizement of the priesthood. And from that time onwards, all who possessed or were teaching the secret wisdom were mercilessly persecuted and killed and put to death. Henceforward, the occult sciences were studied in secret, and they were guarded and kept alive by such people as the Freemasons, Rosicrucians, alchemists, the troubadours, the Knights of the Grail, and the Knights of the Round Table, and the Anvengencies, or papermakers. Russia, there were the Trots, and in Britain, there had been the Druids. Earlier, still in Mexico, there were the remnants of the teachings of Quetzalcoatl and the ancient Atlantean settlement at Peru. In Chaldea, there were the Magi, or the magicians, the famous astrologers who possessed the Egyptian wisdom and knew of the time and place where the new Messiah should be born. And in Palestine itself, the wise ones belonged to the sect called the Essenes, which is probably, in my opinion, the most interesting sect of people, which had been existed for 8,000 years and was to have the privilege of training Jesus Christ. Everywhere in the world, the self-same ancient wisdom can be traced until its widespread stamping out and persecution at the beginning of the Dark Ages, from which we are now emerging. And everywhere in the world at present are the signs of the reemergence of that wisdom back into the light of day, not as the prerogative and secret of the priesthood, but as the hard-earned right of the whole of humanity. The tables have indeed been turned, and now we find much of the wisdom outside the churches and temples instead of inside them. Humanity is taking its salvation into its own hands, and that is because we are now coming into the great Aquarian age under the sign of Aquarius, which will last, as do all the signs, for about 2,000 years. And during this time, the waters of life will be poured down on all mankind, and the astrological influences will bring a golden age to birth. And many believe that the ever-coming one will arrive again in his newest guise, which we may yet not know, but great will be the fulfillment for those who are ready and awaiting his coming. What do you think about that? Well, I don't know. I mean, I've been trying to, the Farquad, yeah. So I don't know about how things got this way, though. See, on one hand, you have a lot of people that understand this, and they know the truth about all this stuff. This stuff is kind of obvious at this point. And on the other hand, there's this, in my opinion, a psyop of, I don't want us to call it false conspiracy, because conspiracy is a real thing, but just conspiracy theories about all of the people. How did this happen? All of the people that guarded the wisdom and kept it safe while people were being murdered and put to death. And I don't know how many shows I've been on, because I've done my research on this, like real research, like how many people were put to death during the Dark Ages for even studying the spirituality, secret wisdom, talking about Chaldea, ancient Egypt, or the parallels between all religions and our upbringing, put to death. So naturally, there were secret societies that came out and got together on their own to try to figure it out. But they were made out to be some type of evil, dominating characters that worked with the devil or whatever. And to this day, that shit's still going on. But it's finally starting to fade out a little bit. Hopefully, you know. I'm sure we'll find something else to scare ourselves with. But what really pisses me off is that there's no accountability here. I guess you could say, on a spiritual level. There's no accountability. I mean, it's obvious more than ever now. And I don't know who would do these types of investigations, but we should keep investigating the truth even more and find out exactly what Vera Stanley Alder is talking about. How all of these texts, some were taken in, some were taken out, some of the words were changed, some of the knowledge was actually changed that didn't even, things were said that were never even written in the first place. There was a lot of revealing text that showed the symbolisms of, and all of these different analogies and archetypes that were hidden and still kept inside the Vatican. But there's no accountability. Matter of fact, a lot of those people are dead, so there's really nothing we can do to punish them or get justice, right? Damn the Bible Belt, yeah. And down here where I live, it's not even, I wouldn't even, it's more like a Southern Baptist thing here. It's Calvinism. Are you familiar with Calvinism? Hardcore, Orthodox fundamental Christianity. Calvinism, in my opinion, was almost just as bad as the Dark Ages of the Roman Catholic Church. Yet, they had to purify things, push the truth. But there's still no accountability. I feel like, honestly, some of the teachings in the church, here's the weird thing about this whole thing, too. Most of the magicians nowadays, the occultists like Eliphas Levi, Henry Cornelius Agrippa, a few more, they came from the Catholic Church. So the Catholic Church knows the truth. That's why they do a lot of ceremony. That's why they use color and senses and things like that. That's why they use ceremony the way they use it, because they know how powerful it is. But the thing is the Baptist, and I don't want to, God damn it. I grew up Baptist, so it's hard for me to even say this. I feel like the Baptist can almost be worse sometimes. So instead of religion, let's talk about love, okay? Love is love. I don't have to explain love. We can do that whole speech. Love is kind. Love is free. Love is understanding. Love is patient. It's all those things. It's Christ-like, right? That's what love is. In my experience, if you sought truth, and I'm not making this up, it was very awkward to be thrown out of churches as a child, as an 8-year-old kid being thrown out of churches because my father was so damn set on finding the truth that he would stand up in the middle of church, raise his hand, and ask about contradictions in the Bible, or say, well, if the Bible says this, then why are you doing that? Just talking, asking, trying to find the truth. And we were cast out. My father was voted out of churches, called a black sheep. It was embarrassing. But you know what he was searching for? He was searching for love. Love wants the truth. It wants to know the truth. It finds comfort in the truth. When you know all of the truth, you can make a choice. And what is love? It's free will. It's the unity of all of us to come back into the divine creator and to be together again as one, but also to have the free will in every sense of the word to make that choice. So when people hide things from you, or they cover stuff up, or they change things, or they deceive you, they are not loving you. It's not spiritual. It's a form of control. And they did this on a mass level. Most of us know how it feels for an individual to do this to us, right? Imagine your higher self is wanting you to authenticate. It's talking to you. It's telling you to come into this union with your higher self so that you can better love others and come into union with others and all this other stuff and grow your spirit that you're supposed to do. And when you did it, you got strung up, burned, hung, killed, told to shut up. That karma, if we go back to karma, right? That karma of what that happened we are still working that shit out to this day. Believe it or not. And anytime we take away the golden rule, or we take away people's truth, or we take away the love of things, there's karma that we have to fix. It sucks. I used to say that I'm too lazy, right, to lie, and the truth is it's not really a laziness. It's just you get too old. I mean, I'm sure I've lied about stupid little things here and there, but you get too old to like want to cover shit up, to not lie, manipulate, whatever. So you have to, what I'm saying is you have to know if someone is 50, 60, 70, 80 years old and they've got priests and they all wear funny hats and colors and stuff, and they're willing to lie to you, then that's where the conspiracy is. It ain't in the people that were protecting the truth. Damn it. That's a psyop, if I ever saw one. Anyways, I went on a tangent. But I guess it's probably because I can't really finish this book right now. I just saw a little thing in there. While it popped up, it said nudist movements, vegetarian and nature cure practices, biochemistry, and the latest method of psychoanalysis all point the way to future universal yogas. Nudist movements? Man, some of these writers crack me up, man. They reveal such amazing things, and they either when they get towards the end of their book, they start putting their agenda in there and projecting a little bit. You ever notice that? Like when people give a profound truth in a book, their first book is always amazing. And then when you read the second book or the third book or even further down the road, you can start to see their agenda kind of come in, you know. Read Conversations with God. Man, that is one of the best. What's wrong with the nudist movement, Joe? I don't know. It's the 60s person. It just, something about it don't sit right with me. It's like, now that we're at chapter 14, let me tell you about the nudist movement. Yeah. I don't want to see your penis. You're not going to project that onto me. I don't want to see it. Put it up, you know. Anyways, spiritual people are still funny. They're amazing. 66 backwards ball cap here. What was I saying? Yeah, so Conversations with God is an awesome book. Right? Like, it's amazing. It's one of that book changed my freaking life, man. Really. I think that book honestly opened up something in my soul to start my journey of seeking and to do this show. I'm going to be honest with you. I really think it did. It was just like the trigger point. Book two is all right. Book 3, you start like the whole of the agenda of Neil Donald Walsh's idea of how politics should be and the earth should be. Now, all of a sudden, God is telling everybody what Neil Donald Walsh's idea of things are, you know. I think even tarot readers do that sometimes. Like the first few readings are, they're good, and then they start projecting their stuff through, or I don't know. I just think it's something that we do. And if you think about it psychically, we do the same thing. When we answer something psychically, as long as we don't think about it, it's perfect. It's like divine, because we're not blocking it or second guessing or putting some kind of weird agenda on it. But if we start thinking or start bringing an agenda into it, or we're going to try to influence people in some way, that's when shit gets stupid. That's when authenticity goes out the door, if you ask me. I don't know why I even said all that. I think it's too much of these energy drinks. It's frustrating, I think. That's why I say it, because it's frustrating. Because even some of the greatest spiritual teachers that we have nowadays, right now, like, have their first initial teachings that they came out with were the life-changing things. But then they have to, like, I don't know, bring some kind of agenda, a projection that's based upon their wounds that they want to change the world with, which kind of reminds me a little bit of Bill Gates. And that's creepy. So, long story short, just because you get spiritual insight doesn't mean you should start a cult. Just share it and move on, like Jesus did. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to read this, man. It's going ape shit right now. All right, let's end this thing. Let's put everybody to bed early so we can get up and eat turkey tomorrow. I'll probably be on tomorrow night. I don't know. Depends. I don't think I'll be eating turkey at 9 or 10 o'clock at night. So there's a high chance that we'll broadcast Thanksgiving night. And I will end this show as long as I can see the, what do you call it? I may not be able to play music. It is really going apeshit, man. Which one of you guys hexed my computer? All right. There we go. Night. Love you. Sweet dreams. Have an OBE. Call the show. Leave a voicemail. Support the show. Love us. We love you. Come on. You can do it, man. Hit the play button. That's it. There we go. See, I just had a sweet dog in. That ain't going to fix it, but it'll get us through the night. See you in the Discord chat.
Make it a habit calling me that stuff.